more than a week ago, my friend Father Mark, who's the pastor at St. Victor's, and I met for dinner. And we decided for a change to go to downtown San Jose. So we decided to meet up somewhere around San Pedro Square. So when I arrived there, he was already there. And I phoned him and I said, "Where are you?" And he said, "Just follow the music, you'll find me." It's like, that's very helpful. So he said, "Just follow the music, the sound of music, and you'll find me." So I kept looking around, and I kept listening, and there I found him sitting, listening to the band. And so I said to him, "Do you really want to sit here? It's kind of loud. We can't talk, you know." And he said, "Well, let's walk around, and sure, we'll find a place where we could have a nice meal and a nice conversation." So we walked around. And as we were on our way to look for a restaurant, we bumped into a place where they make, do you say crepe? You say crepe, right? Crepe. I was looking at how Jay say, it says crepe, but you know what I'm talking about. So it's crepe. So we bumped into that little place where they were making that. And as we were approaching the place, we saw a young boy. I will name him Luke. Is that okay, Luke? Yeah? All right. So I will name this young boy Luke. And there was Luke waiting for his crepe. And when they gave it to him, it wasn't shell clam, the to-go shell clam plastic thingy. So they gave it to him, and he gently opened it, and there was a wonderful smell. And then we were watching him, and he said, "Oh, my crepe. And then we continued to watch this young boy. We continued to watch Luke. And he said, "There is nothing more delicious than this newly made crepe." And we realized, Father Mark and I realized, the newness of that very thin pancake, I call it, gave him a different perspective of that food. That newness gave him a different sense of smell to enjoy the food. That newness gave him a different way of looking at how to enjoy the food. That newness gave him the ability to be joyful, running towards mom and dad and said, "Look, Mom, look what I got. Look what I got." That newness allowed Luke to enjoy every single bite. I mention all of this, my friends, because it is interesting that as we continue with the season of Easter, the church takes us back to the events of the Last Supper. The church brings us back, takes us back to Holy Thursday. And there are two reasons that we see in the words of Jesus in today's gospel. The first is, of course, the reason of the church giving us Jesus' final words, his farewell discourse, as we approach the end of the season of Easter, as we approach the solemnity of the Ascension. The church invites us to reflect on the final words of Jesus, his farewell discourse. John uses the final discourse of Jesus or gives us the final discourse of Jesus as Jesus nears the end of his life. This was the night before he died for all of us. What's interesting in this gospel reading is what Jesus tells his disciples. He says to his disciples, I will just be with you just for a little while longer. But I tell you, I give you a new commandment. Love one another. Love one another. If this gives perhaps a reason for one of the disciples who were listening to Jesus to say to the Master, but there's nothing new about that commandment. There's nothing new about the commandment to love one another. There is a reason for any of the disciples gathered there to say to Jesus, we heard that in the Hebrew Scripture. We heard that in the Old Testament that says, love your neighbor as yourself. Love those who are your enemies. Love those who do not belong to the flock. Even the foreigners, love them. There's a reason for one of the disciples to refute that. In fact, even the Greeks and the Roman philosophers have told their listeners to love their neighbors. But what is new about the commandment? What's new about the commandment is what comes next. Jesus says, love one another, and here you go, as I have loved you. As I have loved you. That is what makes the commandment to love one another new. And when they heard that, when the disciples heard that, there is something new. There's a newness that came about that made them think, made them reflect, made them ask themselves, but how do we love as Jesus has loved us? And I think it is a question that we need to ask ourselves today. Jesus says, love one another as I have loved you. And we know that that is something new. And Jesus is inviting all of us to savor it, to taste it, and to allow people to experience that newness in Jesus' love. But again, we ask ourselves, how does the love of Jesus look like? How does it look like? I invite all of us in this week to perhaps look at the sacred scriptures. How does the love of Jesus look like? The love that will bring something new in our lives. The love that will bring something new in the way we relate to one another, to associate with one another. How does the love of Jesus look like? It would look like that night of Holy Thursday, when the Master removed his outer garments, wrapped a towel around his waist, knelt in front of his disciples, washed his disciples' feet that only a slave should be doing. And he did not just wash 11, he washed including Judas's feet, the one who will betray him. Looking at that, maybe that would give us a different perspective of the newness of God's love. How does the love of Jesus look like? It looks like Jesus sitting on the sand as the sinful woman was being condemned, and Jesus turns around and says, I will not condemn you. Go and sin no more. How does the love of Jesus look like? It looks like Jesus feeding the multitude. It looks like Jesus healing It looks like Jesus ministering and welcoming people. How does the love of Jesus look like? It looks like Jesus being nailed on the cross and says, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they're doing." How does the love of Jesus look like? It looks like Jesus hanging on the cross, giving himself, emptying himself, saying to the repentant thief, "Today you will be with me in paradise." How does the love of Jesus look like? It would look like Jesus sitting with the woman from Samaria, listening to this woman and giving this woman a new perspective, a new way of living, a new way of loving, a new way of looking at life. And today, my friends, for these children, how does the love of Jesus look like? Boys and girls, it looks like simple bread and wine. It looks like simple bread and wine transformed into becoming the body and blood of the Lord. And how does the love of Jesus look like? It is Jesus willing to feed you, give you the bread of life, so that you will have the strength and the courage to love not only your parents, to love not only your siblings, right, Micah? Right. To love not only your friends, but to love everyone. How does the love of Jesus look like? It looks like the bread of life given to you, so that you can be like Jesus, so that when we look at you, we see Jesus. And to all of us, my friends, how does the love of Jesus look like? It looks like bread and wine broken and shared for all of us. And as we are fed and nourished with the bread of life, we go forth from this sacred liturgy to be the bread of life, to be Jesus, so that in each one of us, people can smell, taste, see, and more importantly, experience the love that Jesus showed each one of us.